I want to thank you all for staying engaged with the material so far, and I want to touch on just a couple of points. Number one, the earlier you get into the discussion board and start asking questions and contributing with your peers, the more you are likely to learn. I've noticed a tendency to wait until Saturday to get started, and of course with the due date being Saturday, the peer interaction is lowered dramatically. So consider starting earlier. Also, if you have questions about the material, a great place to ask the question is in the discussion board. Not only will your peers become involved, because often someone in the class knows the answer, but I will as well. I typically have looked into the discussion board early, but with so few responses have not been compelled to get in there and add anything. Partly because I'd really rather you all start by answering without having a reflection on what I have just posted. So it really is all about what you all are doing. That said, by now you all are seeing how complex real estate can be. There are numerous laws and regulations. There are guidelines that influence who's expected to do what. And these are things that even realtors understand and use at varying degrees. At its very easiest, some end up with a real estate license knowing very little about real estate. So, as is often the case, the situation can become one of buyer's beware. That being said, I want to encourage all of you, when you are working in your real estate, to start with written documents. Now, oral agreements are enforceable, but the issue with oral agreements is the courts will enforce what they think was agreed to. And if you can't come to any agreement as to what was orally agreed to, it leaves the courts in a difficult position. So ultimately, whatever you do, create a written record, even if it's as simple as an email document or an email that is sent to the other party summarizing what you think the oral agreement was. If left unaddressed by the recipient, then your position is more likely to stand, because the recipient had an opportunity to say, no, wait, that's not what we had agreed to. So the idea is try to make sure you have something that you can provide to the courts that supports your position. As we've looked at things like mechanics liens and fixtures, there's a very specific process that needs to be followed. Now, many of you probably have heard stories about the fly-by-night roofers that'll come through a community after a big storm and take significant deposits for materials or labor and then skip town. Now, this leaves everyone everyone who's paid any money in a difficult position. I know, as someone who works significantly with properties, I often act as my own general contractor. I will very rarely give any significant deposit to anybody for materials or labor. If I'm working with someone brand new, I might actually provide the materials myself, go over the listing of requirements with my subcontractor and purchase the materials and have them locked on site and made available to them when they show up to do the work. So again, as we see from some of our cases in Chapter 6, if you pay your contractor and the contractor does not pay the subcontractor, a court case is likely to ensue. So this little review was basically to suggest to each of you to take care of yourself, regardless of which party you are. You might be the realtor, you might be the homeowner, or you might be the subcontractor doing the work. In any case, it's best to protect yourself rather than be forced to go to court to resolve it. That being said, and I was reading just a couple of these, sometimes where the courts favor and who was enriched. I know if I were, and I often am, an investor in a property, I buy fixer-uppers. And part of what I consider my compensation is the difference between what I end up paying to do the repair work and what the property is then valued at. The court was looking at undue enrichment by homeowners who might have a property worth more than what they had paid. Well, that would effectively, if they then ordered me to pay the difference, that takes my profit out of it, or it might take the incentive out for an investor to make those improvements. So again, use a lot of caution when you are involved with real estate. Make sure it's in writing and stay active and engaged in the project. Please, as you all have questions, ask them in the discussion board. When I find questions, I will respond to them after allowing your peers to take a stab at it. Thanks so much for your time and attention, and enjoy the process. Thank you.